Engines roar, brakes scream. In an instant, silence, then chaos. Twisted metal, flashing lights, hearts racing. This isn't a movie, it's real. Every frame tells a story. Get ready. At a quiet tire shop, everything seems routine until a sudden blast shatters the calm. Within seconds, smoke and fragments fill the air, turning an ordinary day into turmoil. At a snowy junction, one car blasts through without slowing down. In an instant, it slams into another vehicle, the crash echoing across the frozen streets. A motorcyclist rides too close to the riverbank. At the last moment, his friend leaps off, but the bike and its rider plunge straight into the water. A large lorry barrels down the opposite lane with its rear door flapping open. As it passes a small car, the door snags it, hauling the helpless vehicle along in a terrifying instant. A car swerves into the oncoming lane without warning. Within seconds, it crashes into approaching vehicles, turning the roadway into a scene of chaos. A luxury car blips its engine to flaunt its power. But the sudden surge backfires, the tires lose traction, and the car slides straight into a parked vehicle. In wintry conditions, a car lost control and smashed into another at top speed, a truly harrowing crash on slick, icy roads. As the race starts, the car veers erratically across the circuit. Moments later, white smoke billows from its engine before it slams violently into the barrier. Inside the garage, a group of friends examines a motorcycle, joking and chatting. Suddenly, a spark catches, and in an instant, flames envelop the bike. A heavy lorry drifts too near the shoulder. It plows into a parked car, crushing the smaller vehicle beneath its weight. A sudden turn goes disastrously wrong as an SUV climbs over another car. In seconds, the smaller vehicle is squashed beneath its weight. The plane wavers in the air, struggling to keep its heading. Moments later, it plunges to the ground, sending a vast cloud of smoke billowing skyward. The small car slips on the icy road, spinning helplessly toward the junction. A moment later, it smashes into the side of another vehicle, the quiet intersection erupting into turmoil. An SUV tries to cut in front of a truck, but the truck won't give way. Forced to respond, the SUV veers onto the shoulder, barely avoiding a crash. The truck skids on the slick road, its tires losing grip. Moments later, it slams into the car ahead with a heavy, crushing impact. The driver nods off, his car gradually drifting into the oncoming lane. A truck approaches head-on, and the crash is immediate and catastrophic. Security camera footage shows an ordinary shift at the factory when, without warning, a fierce inferno erupts, engulfing the building in mere moments. At an intersection, a small mound of dirt and a downed tree sit in the middle of the road. A speeding car strikes them head-on, launching into the air before smashing back down with a thunderous impact. A bus fails to spot the car in front and slams straight into it. Pinned between two buses, the small car is mangled in a terrifying press of metal and glass. Losing control, a heavy truck careens forward uncontrollably. It plows into the vehicles ahead, sparking a massive and terrifying domino effect crash. As the truck rumbles down the road, a hefty icicle snaps off its roof. In an instant, it crashes onto a passing car, a chilling reminder of hidden winter hazards. A speeding car races down the highway, closing in fast. In an instant, it slams into the rear of a moving truck with a thunderous crash. The car's driver nodded off and drifted into the oncoming lane. The truck collided at full speed, leaving no chance of escape. A truck's wheel flew off and struck the car behind. The hit was so forceful that the car overturned. A truck tries to clear the tracks as the barrier begins to lower. Just moments later, a fast-moving train slams into its rear, ripping through the trailer in a violent impact. A heavy lorry loses control on the icy road, swerving across the center line. In a split second, it crashes head-on into another truck coming from the opposite direction. Two cars enter the junction at the same time. Neither driver gives way, and their sudden crash sends debris flying across the roadway. A driver starts drifting in a supermarket car park, tires screeching across the tarmac. But control slips away, and the car smashes straight into the shopping cart bay. On a quiet village lane, a driver loses control. The car veers off course and slams straight into a utility pole. An SUV abruptly changes lanes without indicating. The driver behind swerves to avoid it and ends up crashing straight into a roadside pole. The camera sweeps across a tranquil horizon. In the distance, a colossal fireball blossoms, climbing into the sky like a blazing mushroom cloud. A speeding car races down the road too close to the vehicle ahead. In a split second, it slams into the back of an SUV, the impact echoing through the air. At a busy junction, two cars head toward the same green light. Neither eases off, and their paths converge in a sharp, sudden smash. A cyclist crosses the road without getting off. The car ahead brakes sharply to avoid hitting him, but the vehicle behind can't stop in time and crashes into it. Two cars smash at a busy junction, scattering debris across the roadway. Later that same day, another wreck occurs in the very same spot, a crossroads that seems downright cursed. The driver loses command as the car slides across the slick roadway, spinning into the oncoming lane and crashing head-on with an approaching vehicle. A compact car loses control and crashes into an ambulance ahead. The blow sends the emergency vehicle skittering across the ice, sliding helplessly toward the shoulder. A tranquil street turns tumultuous as a car slides into a bus's lane. In an instant, serenity yields to disaster. The small car loses control on the slick road. It slides sideways and crashes into a parked vehicle with a dull, heavy thud. A passing van drives onto the railway crossing without noticing the oncoming train. Within seconds, it's hit by the speeding train in a powerful, unstoppable crash. A car pulls out to overtake, trying to gain just a few seconds. But the hazardous move ends in a head-on crash with an approaching vehicle. The car skids uncontrollably on the icy road, its tires scraping for traction. A second later, it crashes into an oncoming vehicle, a split-second slip turning into calamity. A stolen vehicle lost control and smashed into the fence, leaving a wake of devastation. A truck loses grip on the icy road, spinning like a merry-go-round. After several rotations, it slides straight into a parked car with a heavy impact. The driver loses control and drifts onto the shoulder. Within seconds, the car skids sideways and overturns with a thunderous crash. At a busy junction, two cars collide in a sudden smash. Moments later, at the very same spot, an SUV loses control and crashes into a pole. The rocket lights and begins its climb, optimism rising with it. But within seconds, a thunderous blast devastates the pad, signaling a disastrous failure. The rocket ascends, engines thunder with potential, but within mere seconds it drops back to the pad and detonates in a searing flash, a breathtaking yet horrifying scene.
Na to samo wychodzi. Ale to wiesz, to na chuj tu wiesz, tu nie musimy za pośrednika płacić, czyli nie musimy im płacić, wiesz, musimy tylko.
Two cars approach the junction from opposite directions. What looks like a routine turn turns into chaos as they smash head-on in a split second. On a snowy roadway, a car loses traction and starts to slide sideways. Within moments, it slams into a stone wall, scattering debris across the white landscape. The motorist pulls to the side after noticing odd sounds from his vehicle. When he lifts the hood, smoke starts billowing out, thickening quickly as the motor overheats. A fleeing driver races through the pursuit, desperate to get away. But a sharp turn sends the car skidding out of control, crashing into the bridge's support beams with devastating force. At the junction, two cars enter from opposite directions. Neither yields, and they crash in a sudden violent impact. The truck lost control and slammed into a car, a stark reminder of how quickly crashes can happen. On a crowded motorway, a car collides with a freight truck. The hit sends debris flying as traffic screeches to a stop. A truck brakes abruptly, forcing the cars behind it to swerve, unable to stop in time. As it veers into the oncoming lane, a small car appears, and the crash becomes inevitable. The car ahead begins to weave unpredictably. Moments later, the driver behind can't react in time, and a sudden crash ensues. The SUV's driver nods off in traffic, hands still on the wheel. Moments later, the vehicle plows into a stationary car stuck at the head of the jam. A calm morning commute descends into chaos as a city bus collides head-on with a heavy lorry. What began as a routine drive suddenly becomes a struggle for survival. At a smelting facility, a driver carefully tips waste into the molten pool. Suddenly, the molten metal bubbles and erupts, splashing searing liquid onto the vehicle. A driver moves to overtake, pulling into the adjacent lane without checking ahead. But another car is already there, and the two collide instantly. The camera captures a startling scene, a bus engulfed in towering flames. Thick smoke billows skyward as the fire devours the vehicle within moments. A speeding car barrels into an intersection, unable to halt in time. It breaks through the roadside edge and slides out into an open field. At the junction, two cars attempt to pass at the same time. In a blink, their paths intersect, sending shockwaves through the crossing. Two heavy lorries collide with a thunderous impact. Moments later, one of them ignites, sending thick smoke billowing into the sky. At a busy junction, one error triggers chaos. 5 cars crash in a massive chain reaction, turning the crossing into a scene of wreckage. A compact car grazes the side of an SUV while changing lanes. The hit sends the larger vehicle tumbling over in a violent spin. 2 cars end up in a strange crash, one teetering on top of the other's bonnet. When the lower car backs up, the one above slams down with a loud thud. At a busy junction, 2 vehicles cross paths. In an instant, a loud smash disrupts the flow of traffic. An old structure stands quietly, its walls fissured and worn by age. Then it abruptly gives way, throwing up a vast dust cloud as frightened onlookers sprint for safety. A firefighting helicopter hovers low over the lake to scoop up water. But with a sudden loss of control, it tips and plunges straight into the water below. The driver nods off behind the wheel, the car slowly drifting over the center line. When he comes to, it's too late. A truck is bearing straight toward him, and the crash is unavoidable. A compact car pulls out to pass, misjudging the gap ahead. In an instant, it crashes head-on with an oncoming lorry. A car rear-ends the vehicle ahead, the impact jolting it off course. Moments later, it crashes into a roadside pole, coming to an abrupt stop. A car carrier lorry hauling several vehicles loses balance on the road. Within moments, it tips over, sending the loaded cars tumbling across the asphalt. At a busy junction, a van and a compact car cross paths at the wrong moment. The hit is abrupt, sending both vehicles spinning across the roadway. A patrol car races through with its lights flashing. Suddenly, it slides on the slick roadway and slams hard into the roadside fence. A heavy truck loaded with concrete beams struggles to keep steady on icy pavement. As it skids out of control, the massive beams spill into the opposite lane, barreling straight toward oncoming traffic. 2 aircraft converge in the clear air, their trajectories tragically aligned. In an instant, they smash head-on, one corkscrews out of control and slams down in a blazing plunge. The driver loses command in an abrupt turn. The vehicle veers offline and smashes straight into a pole with a brutal jolt. The paved road gave way right beneath a moving car, a terrifying moment captured on camera. Here, a speeding car slams into a truck at full force, yet remarkably, everyone survived. A small courier van moves steadily down the crowded street, Then moments later, it detonates without warning, transforming the routine drive into turmoil. Two heavy lorries collide head-on at high speed, the impact echoing across the road. Moments later, flames erupt from the wrecks, the debris engulfed in fire. A car moves to pass and tries to merge back into its lane too quickly. It skids, spins out of control, and collides with an oncoming vehicle. A reckless driver cuts sharply in front of another car. The startled motorist swerves, loses control, and smashes violently into the roadside fence. During takeoff, the aircraft struggles to stabilize. Suddenly, it pitches downward and crashes, followed by a massive blast that illuminates the runway. Sparks flicker softly along the overhead wiring. Moments later, the electrics flare into flame, sending fire racing across the ceiling panels. A truck drives beneath a bridge, misjudging its clearance. The roof scrapes the underside, sending bits of concrete crumbling down from above. The car slides over a sheet of ice, its tires losing all traction. A moment later, it pirouettes across the center line and crashes head-on with an approaching vehicle. A heavy lorry stalls in the middle of the level crossing. Moments later, a fast-moving train rams into it, ripping through the metal in a brutal collision. As the car races down the road, a sudden blast tears through the front. The bumper rips off entirely, scattering fragments across the asphalt. As one car gingerly enters the junction, another rockets in from the right. The crash is abrupt and savage, the sound of impact reverberating through the crossroads. The car skids helplessly across the icy surface. It slams into the barrier, splintering wood and metal on impact. The truck's brakes fail and it launches off the road, tumbling down the steps. For a moment, the vehicle hangs in the air, nearly overturning before slamming to the ground and continuing its wild drive. The helicopter descends cautiously toward the touchdown area, but an abrupt lean turns accuracy into calamity as it slams down on contact. A small car loses control and swerves toward a man standing beside his vehicle. He leaps just in time, landing on the hood as the car screeches to a stop. A tractor climbs a slight incline, fighting to keep its balance. Suddenly, it leans too far and rolls backward, crashing heavily onto the ground. A driver tries to cut off the car ahead, pushing the risk a bit too far. Within seconds, the maneuver backfires. The car fishtails and slams into a roadside fence. A small car pulls out to make a turn, unaware of a speeding truck approaching. The icy road gives the truck no chance to stop, and within moments, it slams into the helpless vehicle. A truck loaded with bricks was traveling in the opposite lane when one flew off and smashed into a car's windshield. Fortunately, the driver walked away with just a fright. A car hurtles down the highway when suddenly a wheel comes off. It bounces along the lane and smashes into the windshield of the vehicle behind. The motorist tried to pass a bus but misjudged the gap, colliding with a passing vehicle and causing a shocking, horrific wreck. A calm morning commute erupts into chaos as a city bus collides head-on with a heavy truck. What started as an ordinary drive suddenly turns into a fight for survival. A man steps into the road, oblivious to the danger ahead. The speeding lorry swerves to avoid him, but the shoulder collapses, sending the massive vehicle plunging into the river below. A truck carrying logs takes a sharp turn too quickly. The trailer starts to fishtail, and within moments, timber spills across the roadway in a chaotic shower of debris. The car slides across the icy road, tires spinning futilely. A moment later, it crashes into a roadside pole with a brutal jolt. The driver brakes hard without warning, leaving the car behind no time to respond. Forced to swerve into the oncoming lane, the trailing vehicle collides head-on with another car. Inside the plant, all appears routine until a sudden plume of white vapor floods the air. Seconds later, fire breaks out, racing swiftly through the structure. On a frozen stretch of road, two cars race toward each other with little visibility. In an instant, they collide head-on, the brutal force of the crash echoing through the winter air.
Yes.
Losing control, the compact car veers onto the shoulder. Within seconds, it crashes into a passing truck, the impact echoing across the roadway. A small car surges ahead with no sign of slowing. In an instant, it slams full force into the back of a truck, the jolt rattling the entire roadway. A compact car attempts to overtake another that's already passing. Losing control for a moment, it slides and slams into the vehicle in front. A speeding boat slices swiftly across the water, but strikes a taut cable. In an instant, the vessel flips over, hurling everything into chaos. At a congested junction, the bus struggles to stop in time. In a heartbeat, it collides with a compact car ahead, the impact reverberating through the crossing. On the icy road, a car loses control and skids into an oncoming lorry. The impact is savage, and within seconds, the car erupts into flames. The lorry driver fails to notice a small car trying to change lanes. In a terrifying instant, the vehicle is trapped and crushed between two towering trucks. A Kamaz lorry rolls over the crossing just as a train nears. In a heartbeat, the hulking engine rams it, hauling the truck for several meters and leaving only mangled debris in its wake. A tranquil day at the marketplace unfolds as people peruse the booths. Within moments, a dense white plume envelops the vicinity, consuming everything and everyone in view. A massive lorry hurtles down the road, unable to slow in time. It plows into a small car ahead, the size disparity making the impact devastating. A speeding car fails to notice a stopped vehicle ahead. The collision turns the parked car into a ramp, catapulting the speeding vehicle into the air for a startling, gravity-defying moment. The vessel glides calmly over the water, its occupants at ease and unsuspecting. Suddenly, fire breaks out on deck, and the crew scrambles frantically to extinguish the blaze. A heavy truck rolls forward uncontrollably, smashing into another parked lorry. The driver standing nearby narrowly dodges being struck. A pedestrian crosses the road away from the crosswalk, unaware of the danger. Drivers slam on their brakes over the icy surface, but instead of stopping, the cars collide with each other in a desperate attempt to avoid him. The small car skids across the icy road, spinning out of control. Within moments, it slides into the opposite lane and crashes into an oncoming vehicle. Two aircraft collide mid-air, spiraling out of control. Moments later, one slams into the ground and detonates in a massive fireball. An SUV careens out of control and slams straight into a police station. Within seconds, officers race outside, and the stunned driver is promptly taken into custody. Late at night in a car dealership, everything seems calm. Then suddenly, one of the parked vehicles ignites, setting the entire room aglow with flames. The driver nods off for just a moment. That moment is enough. The car smashes into a truck's rear wheel and overturns violently. Disregarding the red light, the driver accelerates, convinced he'll make it through. A split second later, another car slams into his side, a stark reminder that rushing on the road can cost dearly. The Ferris wheel rotates slowly against the sky, lights shimmering in the dusk. Then flames appear on one of the gondolas, and horrified spectators record the unfolding calamity on their phones. A driver wedges a bottle inside the steering wheel, laughing as he films himself, hands-free. But the moment of fun turns to panic when the truck wanders off the road and crashes violently. While overtaking on the icy road, the car loses grip. It slides sideways into the oncoming lane and collides with an approaching vehicle. Crazy crashes, epic saves. Don't blink. Like and subscribe